This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Can you tell me the supervisory organizations you have created? Mohan? Anyone?
Oh yeah, MRP.
Okay. So again, there is a small limitation as well, right? To convert a staffing model from one type to the other type. Let's say for finance, if I want to convert the staffing model, currently it is on position management.
Yep.
Okay. If we have created positions, then I cannot convert it. Let me take any other super.
Oh, it has to be empty.
Yeah. So like the moment we have created, like it the organization's staffing tab and then the other
This one.
positions like member tab should be
There we,
empty. Then only I can convert the staffing model. See now
there we
this
go.
is free. So you can do it through go to related actions of the supervisory organization,
Okay.
and then if you go to organization, you have an option called edit staffing model here.
Okay. Cool.
This is one way, and the other way is you can use maintain staffing models as a task.
Staffing model.
Using this task, so this will help us to make changes to multiple organizations together in one go. So
Oh, cool.
this will become a little difficult to search for the supervisory organizations because so you can select the superorg here like this, and then you can convert the staffing model from position management to the job management like this. Just
You
check
got
changing the
basically
check
right
box.
there. You can see everything in the tenant right now, right? So there's a lot of them. I see.
Yeah. So you see multiple values here.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So these are
Thank you.
the two different ways. Again, for job management also, we can convert it only if we don't set up the job restrictions, hiring restrictions on the SUPOC. In position management, we can convert it only if we don't create at least one position or no hiring should be done in the SUPOC.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Any other questions, Addis and Ture? Good. So till now we have discussed on the job profiles, job families and job family groups and the job catalog. So we'll start discussing on a new concept called compensation in Workday. So what is a compensation and what are the different elements or items we see on in compensation area, right? So like in general, if we see our paychecks, like most of us will receive pay slips or paychecks at the end of every month or fortnightly we'll receive like every 2 weeks. Some organizations like some countries and companies they pay like weekly, right, monthly. In different frequencies they'll pay the salaries to the workers, right? So what are the different components we see in our compensation? So can you just help me with some of the names that we see on compensation, like our paychecks?
Like, like, like. I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
Yeah, what are the different names or items we see on our payslips?
Oh, our total hours, pay rate,
Okay, yeah, pay rate,
right? Right.
total days, total hours worked.
Hours worked. Yeah.
Mm. So we see basic salary or
Base
basic
salary. Yeah.
pay,
Base salary. Yeah.
right? Then we have some sort of allowances, right? So I'm just taking some simple examples here, like you might see mobile allowances. We'll have some say kind of internet allowances, right? And say for example car allowance. I'm just taking the regularly used, some basic allowances here. And do you see these allowances for every worker in the organization, or do you see any difference uh, from worker to worker? Let's say car allowance. So some organizations do provide it for everyone. Some organizations do provide it for only some specific set of or a specific group of people, right? So there might be differences, right? Again, if you see, let's take an example of different management levels. Let's say I have vice president, right? I have CEO, and I have some, individual contributor. Now, does all these three people have same elements on their paycheck, or do they vary?
Yeah, it probably vary.
It varies, right? Like, some different level of, management level, maybe some higher executives, like they might have some additional perks or additional allowance plans or any other types of added to their paychecks, and wherein, when it comes to an individual contributor or someone at like manager level, so they may not receive car allowance. Let's say car allowance, as per our organization's decision, if they say like director and above, so only people who are hired at director and above levels are eligible for the car allowance, not everyone in my organization. So there are some specific certain criteria to receive some certain compensation components in our paycheck, right? Like similarly, you see, you take some stock plans, like, only a set of level of people are eligible for, to get the stocks vested into their accounts, like, only they will get the stocks. There are some unit plans, only they will get some units allocated to them. So not only those things, like even on any allowance plan level, so different plans or different allowances are eligible for, like again, HSA plan, right? Health savings account. So that is eligible for some specific set of uses, like people based out of United States. 401k plan, right? That is again specific to United States workers, right? And Puerto Rico. And like if you see Provident Fund, PF, which is specific for workers based out of India. That means every plan, so every allowance plan or any sort of these things are, defined for a specific set of users. Like there are criterias, to make sure this plan is, to be given only for this worker, and again, some XYZ plan is eligible for the other worker. So there are some criteria. Again, they will be defined by the business. They'll give the requirements. So, and we are going to create each plan and say, right, yeah, so this is applicable for these workers. This is applicable for these workers. Like we are going to create those eligibilities and so on, and that is how we'll define the compensation structure in the system. So by country or by management level or by, job profile, like, depending upon different criteria. Say for example, some onboarding elements, there is some elements called onboarding elements. So who are all eligible for it? So for every onboarding the recruitment team, they are, doing, so they are eligible for some XYZ amount of balance. So there should be some criteria we should define, based on what, let's say, if the workers job profile is, human resources, or job family is from human resources, yeah, they are eligible for this particular onboarding allowance, right? We'll create a plan, and there should be some amounts, tagged to that particular plan, and they'll be eligible to get that allowances in their accounts. So some of them can be monthly paid, some of them can be like one-time payments, like these onboarding allowances. So some of them can be like, annually paid allowances, components. So you see different items, compensation components on your paychecks, right? So every paycheck item that we see in our payslips have some eligibility defined. So based on those eligibilities, so they should be getting that in the payments. Like say for example, Mohan is at one level, so he might be eligible to receive some XYZ components, and to raise it at a different level, he might be eligible to receive A, B, C, and XY, some extra components. So some the other persons may not be eligible for all these components. So depends upon the criteria and the configurations we are doing. We should make sure the right set of allowances are tagged to the right workers. At the same time, let's see, I have taken an example here, right? Like director and above level. So when I say director and above level, if you remember, we have discussed about, some levels of workers. Let's say this is the base we are considering. When I say director and above, if the job profile have these management levels, then they are eligible for the car allowance. So it is very much important to make sure these people are receiving the car allowance. If they don't, it will become an issue. So they'll create an incident saying that, see, hey, I have a person hired at director level, but he is not able to see car allowance in his account, in his compensation structure. So we need to check it. So at the same time, as I said, it is equally important to make sure that manager, supervisor, and individual contributor should not receive car allowance. So when I'm creating any sort of eligibility rule, right? So it is equally important that right persons are happen to receive the right compensation components. At the same time, the unauthorized people, the other set of population, should also not receive the components. So what will happen if director and above people are not receiving? They will raise an issue, right? But if again, if manager, supervisor, and individual contributor are not supposed to receive as per my organization's requirement, and if they are receiving, so they'll keep quiet, they'll be happy. But again, you will have some disturbances or discrepancies found in your calculations, like overall ledger calculations, correct? So that's where we have to make sure right set of people are receiving the right amounts of compensation allowances, compensation components. Now again, let's say internet allowance, let's take it as an example for only eligible for workers from United States and India. Let's take this as an example. Only the workers from these two countries are eligible to receive some internet allowance. Let's say mobile allowance, all workers of my organization. And again, basic salary is common for everyone. It is again for all the workers. So for some of the plans, the requirement may be like it is for all the workers. For some of the plans, see here, this is only for workers based out of India and United States. And then this is only for the workers who are like, director and above level. So different components have different eligibility criteria. Are you all with me till now? Like, so I'm just taking a simple example here with 3 to 4 allowance plans here, and then we are going to implement the same.
Yeah. So far so good.
Okay. Yeah, again, I'm taking it in a very small scale here. Like in real-time systems, you might see n number of compensation components. Like, by country, there will be any, n number of allowance plans, salary plans it can be created. Okay. The process of creating everything is same. Now, if you see, again, let's go to discuss on the basic salary first in first place. So basic salary is nothing but like, the salary plan we'll be creating. So when it comes to a salary plan, so we'll just create it and say like, so we are going to pay in some XYZ currency. Now, let's say I have a manager I'm going to hire in my system. So what can be his average salary? Some rough numbers. So let's say for example, 20 lakhs. I'm just taking an example here. Let's say the salary of a manager is 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs what? Which currency? So let's say INR. Now, so if I'm hiring a manager in India, it will be 20 lakhs INR. Now, I'm hiring another manager 2. So in United States, am I going to pay 20 lakhs here?
Nope.
No, definitely not. Because if I am hiring someone in United States, I must be paying him in USD, and the number will vary for me, correct? So it should be somewhere around like uh, 1.5 lakh dollars, like 150,000, like this. some random number I'm taking here. Okay. So again, similarly, if I'm hiring some manager in Singapore, so here in this case, so the number might slightly vary. So 175,000, but again, it should be in Singapore dollars. So every hire that we do, like, even at the same level, correct? So they do have different currencies we have to pay because localized payments we have to do, correct? And at the same time, the number might vary. Again, in Singapore itself, let's say I'm hiring one more manager, four. So what should be his or her salary? It can be 165,000. Is it mandatory to have same salary for all the managers in my country, in my company?
No.
No, right? So how do we decide, like, it should be 165 and 175,000 here? So should there be any ground rule again? Again, let's say I'm hiring another manager in Singapore itself. Let's say if I'm paying like $75,000, is it right practice again? One person is being paid at $75,000 and the other person is at like $175,000.
I mean, location, experience. There's a
Yeah,
lot.
so there are so many other parameters. Perfect. So there are so many other parameters that you know influence the number. But again, these numbers might vary from X number to a Y number. So what I'm trying to explain here, so though you're trying to hire a manager level person, there will be a range of salary that we are going to set up as a mark, as a norm for our organization. Correct? Like small minimum salary and the maximum salary. So again, depends upon the technology they're coming from, the number of years of experience, right? And the number of projects they're going to handle, whatever. So based on XYZ parameters, so the salary might vary. Again, this should not be a fair case again. The smallest number and maximum number should be matching. Like if it is somewhere, let me mention it here. Let's say, for example, for a manager in Singapore, let me write it down here and the bottom. You're hiring a manager in Singapore, so you are going to pay him in Singapore dollars with a minimum salary of, let's say, 1.2, $1,20,000 to $1,50,000, let's say. So whenever you are hiring any person in this country, you are going to pay in this currency and you will have some minimum salary and maximum salary. So automatically what will happen when you're hiring, you will try to adjust their numbers accordingly in the system, right? It can be like 165 or 155. Let me take 155 here. It can be like 1.4 something, and this can be like 1.25 thousands. So that is where if you have a range defined, so you will try to maintain the employee's salary within that range. See, when we are applying for jobs, right, sometimes we do encounter these scenarios. So you might be asked for some lesser number, but you might be given some extra perks, right? Like, suppose you might be asked for 10 lakhs, but they will offer you 11 lakhs. So from where this 11 lakhs is coming from? As per the norms of the organization, as per the organization's standards, their minimum salary for the position that you have applied may be 11 lakhs. So that is where you will be end up paying with 11 lakhs as salary. And sometimes you might be hearing this case as well, right? Like you have asked for 20 lakhs as a salary, and you might be hearing saying that, hey, 18 lakhs is what maximum we can offer for this position. So how they used to tell these numbers to us, the recruiters, based on this range we are configuring in the systems. That means for every hire that we're going to do should have some norm configured, like some this profiling should be defined in the system. So business will give the requirement and we'll do those configurations. Like again, similarly, if I'm going to hire a manager person profile in India, okay, so you will be paying them in local currency INR, right? And so the salary might vary somewhere from like 18 lakhs to 24 lakhs. I'm just taking some random numbers. Again, these numbers vary from company to company. Okay. Similarly, United States. So we'll be paying them in United US dollars. So it will be like somewhere $1 lakh to 1.2 lakh dollars, whatever, like this. So when they're hiring someone at this position, so they'll make sure they'll try to fit in the candidate between this range of salaries. So again, is it mandatory to hire or to offer only between these numbers? No, it can go little beyond this range of salaries. It can be less than 1.2 here, it can be greater than 1.5 here, it can be less than 1.8, it can be greater than 2 point, like 24 lakhs. So it can be less than $1 lakh and it can be greater than 1.2 lakh dollars. But then how is it, the why is it we are creating here in the different ranges? So this will help us to give some idea to make sure all the workers or like all the managers that are at like at least some in a specific given range, like under some special criteria, right? Like some special cases or for some exceptional profiles, so we can end up paying some more salary. So in some cases we might be paying some less salary, it depends, but this is the baseline for us. This range helps us to define and decide what number I have to pay to the worker. And now let's take one more country. If we have, let's say we are operating for across three countries, and for those three countries we have to configure the salaries. Now these are called compensation grade profiles. These are called compensation grade profiles. And manager, let's assume manager as a grade. Under manager grade, we have three different profiles. So grade help me to define the range of salary, and grade profile helps me to localize the range of salaries. Basically, grade helps us to define the range, but again, in every grade, you will be having localized concept. I have to consider localizations. I have to consider because the country in which the worker is based out of, he or she should be paid in that respective currency, and the number he or she should be paid will also vary from country. So that is where we create multiple profiles under each grade. So we'll have a compensation grade created. Under each compensation grade, we'll be creating multiple profiles like this. How do we configure it? We'll see it later. But just now, for now, we are discussing that how the different range of salaries will be defined for each worker. Let's say similarly for an individual contributor. So for an individual contributor also, I have to define by each country how much I'm going to pay, right? Isn't it the case? I have to specify for this case also, but again, these numbers might vary from this in this case, right? Like, it can be some 80,000 to say, let's say 90,000. And in India, it is like for individual contributor, it might vary from some 9 lakhs to, let's say 16 lakhs. Some random number I'm taking here. And for United States, it might vary from like, say for example, 60,000 to $80,000. Who is defining it? Again, business will give the requirement. I'm just going to configure this as it is. The range of numbers will be given by the business. We are just going to configure that in the system. And similarly, you can take it for, director level person as well, like, for a director. For all the levels you have to define for all the countries. If you miss out one country also, if you miss out any level also, so when you're hiring that particular person, you do not see any compensation range numbers for them, right? So let's say 1.5 2, like dollars here. It can go like 25 lakhs to 35 lakhs. 1.2 to, let's say 1.5 here, or 1.6, some like this. For every range, like you need to define this for manager, individual contributor, director, vice president, executive vice president. So you have to define this for all range of workers in your organization. So again, I'm just taking three different levels here, three different compensation grades, one for manager, one for individual contributor, one for director. And in each level, I'm taking it for three different countries. If I'm operating across 5 countries, I have to specify in all the 5 country currencies configurations. Are we clear till so far? Any confusions, any questions we have? I'm just taking a requirement here. That's it.
Yeah, so far so good.
Right. Now, let's go for car allowance. Now, let me define the numbers for car allowance. So for car allowance, what is the criteria? All the workers who are director and above. So now I need to define the compensation element, compensation component car allowance for director and above. So again, when it comes to the allowance amounts, right? So salary might vary with different numbers, right? So if we all four are at same level, we are all managers. So we might be having, so I might have 20 lakhs. So Mohan might have 24 lakhs. Ture may have 22 lakhs, Addis may have 25 lakhs. So different range of numbers we can have being in the same country. But when it comes to the allowances does not vary from one range to other range. So they'll be generally in fixed numbers. Correct? So most of the cases, like the allowance amounts are some $1,000 or $1,500 or like whatever, like $100, some whatever the number it can be. But again, it will vary from country to country. So when we create a car allowance plan, like any allowance plans, again by country, if you are paying the worker in Singapore, so we are going to define the currency. Let's say $500 here, Singapore dollars here. If the worker is from India, so he or she should be paid with in INR, and it should be somewhere around like let's say 3,000 rupees. If it is United States, so they'll be paid in US dollars, and it should be somewhere around $400. Right? So we still have localizations like profiles. When I say localizations, I'm creating multiple profiles here. Again, the people from these three countries, they should be director and available. Only then they must receive this. Right? So this is how we can define the allowance amounts for different countries for car allowance. Similarly, we can take another example for internet allowance. Let us take that example as well. So what is the requirement we have taken here for internet allowance? Workers from United States of America and India. All the workers. So we should not get confused when I say all the workers from USA and India. Now again, I need to define it for all the three countries, right? So for internet allowance, let's say it's 1,000 rupees here. Let's say it is $100 here. Let's say $100 here. Do we need to configure for all the countries?
Belongs.
No, internet elements. Do we need to configure it for all the countries?
No.
So what is that additional one here? What is my eligibility rules is? It is for United States and India only. So why should I configure it for Singapore? Not required, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to configure it only for these two countries. Okay. So likewise, we'll configure the numbers. Like again, while giving the requirement itself, we do not have to give it for that particular country. Now, similarly, let's take it for mobile elements. Go to add mobile elements here. Mobile elements is for all the workers. So there is no specific country specification or management level specification here. So then I need to give it for all the three countries. This number can vary. Let's say mobile elements, say $50 here. Let's say 500. This is like 40, like this. So depends upon the business requirement, like whatever let's say these are the numbers we need to configure. So here I have taken from allowances, I have taken three allowances as an example here, and then management levels, like, for three different compensation grades I have created. I'm just taking an example. So like this, if we have the requirement defined, so basis this, we'll do the configuration in the system. So again, I'll create salary plan, and while giving the salary plan, for each compensation grade, it might differ. So I'll create salary plan as a separate entity and allowance plans. Then I'll create compensation grades and compensation grade profiles. And then I'll club all these elements into one entity, and I call this as a compensation package in Workday. That means all these compensation grades, grade profiles, and these allowance plans and salary plans, whatever I'm going to create, I will group them into one entry here. And I call it as a compensation package. Like I'll put everything under one umbrella, and that is called compensation package. So now what is our responsibility? Like we are going to configure all these in the system. Again, every allowance, every plan, compensation plan we are creating has an eligibility. I mean, there is some criteria for every compensation plan. So we have to make sure the right set of population are receiving the right compensation plans. Let's say this internet allowance should be received only by the workers based out of India and United States, but not by any other workers, any other country, any other workers based out of other than India and United States. Mobile allowance, it's for all the workers, that is fine. And for car allowance, it is only for director and above. So like based on the criteria we have been given, we should make sure the right audience are receiving the right allowances, like compensation plans. Again, we have to create one more plan, like which is salary plan we have discussed. So salary plan is going to be for all the workers again. Means for every plan, we need to create an eligibility rule as well. That eligibility rule helps us to filter out the unwanted users from getting allocated with that respect to compensation plan. Okay. Now let's see how to quickly create the allowance plans first, like the salary plan and allowance plans. Then we'll create the compensation grades and grade profiles. Okay. Now let's quickly create a salary plan in the system. Let's go to the tenant. So the task to create a salary plan is create salary plan in Workday. See, very simple. create salary plan is the task name. Give the date 01/01/1900. Okay. So now I'm going to give my salary plan name. I'll give AB Software Services salary plan. I'm prefixing my initials here to identify this is my plan, okay, that I have created. And you do see some different items here. One is the effective date which I have entered, and then some checkbox called inactive. Suppose at any point of time, like we can on edit mode of this plan, you can inactivate this plan if it is not required. So if you check this box, the plan will get inactivated. Similarly, you have something called apply FTE. So what is this apply FTE means? Anyone have idea on this FTE? What is FTE? I guess we have discussed it.
Full-time employee
Yeah, it's full-time equivalent.
equivalent. Okay.
So how this is calculated? Like why is it?
By hours,
Why?
like 40 hours, like it's full-time, right?
Yeah. So when we are creating the location, you remember we have mentioned that in the time profile, right? Like standards 40, standards 37.5, standards 45. So we have defined the number of hours in a week the worker have to deliver or put his efforts to work here, right? So if any worker is working for 20 hours a week, so we'll pay him accordingly, right? Not the full salary. In this case, this FTE helps us to uh, prorate the salary amounts, right? Yes, we have discussed, but let me quickly explain. So, say for example, if a worker's salary is 1 lakh, I'm just taking 1 lakh for easy calculation purposes, and he is expected to work for 40 hours. And if he is working 40 hours, then he or she should be receiving this 1 lakh. His FTE is 100% here. But out of 40 hours, he is working for only 30 hours here. So, how much salary he or she should be paid? 75% of it, somewhere around 75,000. The worker is working for like 20 hours out of 40, and he should be paid 50% of it. So this apply FTE percentage, like on this salary plan, whatever the number you have mentioned, right? If you would like to calculate it as per the FTE mentions, then you select this apply FTE percentage here. So that based on the location, when we are performing the hire, you will have two different options, two different fields there: scheduled weekly hours and actual weekly hours. So if there is any difference like this in the numbers, the system will automatically take care of prorating the salary like this. If you do not select this apply FTE, you will continue paying 1 lakh in all the three cases like this. So again, as per the business requirement, if they say apply FTE, it should calculate on pro rata basis. Then we select this checkbox. See, we can, when you hover over it, you can see this. Assignments amounts are to be entered in full. We'll enter in full amount, like we'll enter 1 lakh only, but the system, the workday prorates the compensation for this assign for employees assigned to this plan based on the full-time equivalent hours percentage. If not selected, right? So to make sure the right numbers are allocated to the workers, we should do the calculations and enter 75,000, 50,000, 1 lakh to the workers. So it is simple practice to select this apply FTE percentage, and we can give the regular number like whatever he is eligible for. Right? System will do the pro rata calculations. Okay. And then we have something called plan description here. So plan name and description, like what is this plan is all about, like what kind of payments we are doing. We can just give some help description for this plan, that's it. And then compensation element, it is a catalyst, it is the mediator between the workday system and the third party payroll systems, right? You might have a number of salary plans created, but you will be having one compensation element which is going to tag your compensation plan and the third party systems. So generally we'll use standard base pay or base pay as a compensation element. So business will give you this requirement as well. And then plan eligibility. So this is important here. Who is going to receive this plan? That's what we have to define and create. Like we'll create it in some time. And exclude from merit. So hope you guys are all aware of like the merit processes in every organization, right? Like the increment cycle. So at every year we'll be getting some change in our salaries, right? We'll get increments to our salaries, right? So should this be plan be considered for merit cycle? Like when they say 5% increment, so that 5% to be applied on your salary plan or what CTC or you're on your allowance plans, whatever. So you are going to select this. If you want this plan to be included in your merit cycle, then you leave it blank. If you don't want this calculation to on this particular plan, then you select exclude from merit. That mean that means when your salary has been increased in terms of percentages, this salary plan will not be considered for any increment. If you select this exclude from merit, generally it should be unchecked. Again, it is given in your requirement. So we'll select all these options as per the requirement, and we have to create eligibility rule based on the requirement. Yeah, we'll do the eligibility rule creation in tomorrow's session. Yeah, let's give it a call for today. So this is how we create a salary plan in simple terms. Okay, I'm just clicking it okay here, and we'll continue in tomorrow's session. Any questions on what we have discussed today?
No? Good. Go forward.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I hope the pace is maintained slow, right? Like if let me know if I'm going a little faster or you are unable to, follow me, please do raise the concern. We can manage it accordingly.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. Let's connect tomorrow.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of. Thank
All
you.
right, bye.